Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and we are once again all hands on deck, this time with only one game to go over. We're talking Slay the Spire 2, the sequel to Slay the Spire, the game that started all this gangster shit in the first place. All the deck building, or most of the deck building, you can probably blame on this
Video game deck building, at least.
Yeah, a lot of it. A lot of the last 10 years of roguelike deck builders you can blame on this.
When I think about board game deck building, I think about Dominion.
Dominion and
Mostly.
Netscape.
Yeah.
That voice you hear is Braden, ArbitraryWater, Redacted.
Ahem. Yar, Captain. We need all hands on deck, for there is a spire ahead, and this boat is gonna crash into it. We must
Yo-ho.
slay said spire.
Yo ho, we must trim the mizzen mast. Hard to port.
Trim the mizzen masts. Remove the strike and defends.
Upgrade the cards so that
Yar.
they do more damage numbers. Yeah, so we're going to be talking Slay the Spire 2. If you're listening in the far-flung future, just to give context, this game came out about a week ago for us here in our current times. And it is in early access, which means it is getting active updates, active bug fixes, rebalances. The early access period, have they said how long it's going to go for?
They said at least a year.
Okay, so at least a year. So it's entirely possible that the version of the game you are looking at, future person, has more characters, different cards, more reworks than what we are currently dealing with.
They've already said there are going to be more areas, because one of the things about this game is that, you know, that you can encounter different versions of Act 1, and
Okay.
they will apparently do the same for Act 2 and 3.
Okay. But right now,
They've put out a roadmap.
as we are playing it, it is one of the earliest versions of this game that they will allow people to play, but we still feel it's worth talking about here on All Hands on Deck because they're charging people money for it. And if they're charging you money for it, you should probably know what we think about said game. How does it stack up?
Yes. If
in
you are one
our-
of the 3 million people who have already bought this game in a week,
We're probably not going to dissuade you or sway you any which way, but if you're not one of those people and you want to know where this stacks up on deck ability, rogue ability, and heart, our trademarked ranking system, which we've used to rank over 20 games already in this genre, scientifically, of course. We are here to do that service for you. But before we do that service for you, our normal plugs, you can get in touch with the show, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, deeplistens.libsyn.com, that's where our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast.bluesky.social, that is our social media account. You can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. At the $1 tier, you get access to our Discord. You can talk to a host of this show and other shows and other members of the community. At the $3 tier, you get access to the OG Soundcast. Braden, what are you playing? What are you watching on the OG Soundcast?
we're watching Spice and Wolf.
Oh, Spice and Wolf. Tell me about the Spicy Wolves. Is it good?
Let me tell you, okay, what if anime
Yes.
with two people who are very into each other just kind of casually flirting constantly,
Huh?
which is a Trojan horse for you learning about pre-industrial economics.
So it's a slice of life anime that is secretly made by some sort of economics pervert.
Yeah, made by someone who's like, I love agrarian economics. Let's talk about how you would price apples.
That's amazing.
Also, there's a wolf goddess and a merchant man, and they're very into each other
Okay.
in like a cute way.
That's great. At the $3 tier, the OG Songcast would give you access to our anime show, which is covering that thing that Braden likes. That's cool.
Actually like that show, yeah.
Good. And for people who don't listen to Off the Deep End because they just love the cards, what are you playing now for Off the Deep
Oh,
End?
we're playing Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, which
That's fine.
you'll probably get an episode on that next week. I enjoy that game. Spoilers.
Excellent. And then on the main show, we're playing Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance.
Vengeance, yeah.
Vengeance. All right. I think that's everything for housekeeping, which means now we can turn our attention to Slay the Spire 2, the second Slay the Spire.
That's
Braden,
right.
Let's just give everyone our stats on both Slay the Spire 2 and Slay the Spire 1 so people can know.
So I mostly played Slay the Spire 1 on Switch.
Okay.
So my numbers on PC are much different, but I played a lot of Slay the Spire on Switch, and then when I got it on PC, I played like 50 hours of Slay the Spire Downfall, which is the fan expansion for Slay the Spire that
You play as the bosses.
You can play as the bosses, and the bosses all have their own decks, and it's genuinely very well made. It's a little overstuffed in that fan mod way, but it's very good. And it kind of feels like they are taking some cues from that with some of the ways in which the new classes are constructed. Also, the Slay the Spire board game is getting a Downfall expansion pack.
Of course it is.
So they are getting like officially acknowledged.
That's cool.
In cardboard form.
Which
Slay
is the
Spire
realest way
2,
to... That's the realest way to get acknowledged,
Yeah.
is in cardboard form.
Slay the Spire 2, I have beaten the game at least once with all of the characters thus far. I've beaten it twice with the defect, because the defect is one of the easiest characters to get just a murder machine going if you get the right cards. I've played 17 hours of it. There's nothing stopping me from playing more of it right now.
Except that I need you to pay attention.
Except that I need to pay attention and speak into this microphone with my full attention.
So how long do you have on Steam in Slay the Spire?
Slay the Spire, as I said, I mostly just played it on Switch. So Slay the Spire, I've only put an hour in on Steam. But on Switch, it's more like 30.
Okay, so my original Slay the Spire count is 142 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then my Slay the Spire 2 count is 13 hours currently. I have beaten the game with every character. I haven't beaten the game twice with anyone yet. But I am now starting to do Ascension.
Yes.
I'm trying to do the harder version. So Slay the Spire original, if you've played a roguelike deck builder, you've played a game that was heavily inspired by Slay the Spire, almost certainly. So you are probably familiar with the mechanics of this game, even if you haven't played it. It is why all of these deck builders give you 3 energy every turn. It is why you get a map where there's like diverging paths and you need to pick a path to go down. It is the reason why the enemies announce what they're going to do before your character gets to act. And so you can prepare for what they are going to do to you. It's the reason why after every battle, you get to pick a card from a list of 3, and not 4, and not 5, it's 3 cards. Right? Like, a bunch of those conventions. It's why you've got the, like, artifacts that
Basic
you pick up.
fundamental ideas.
Yes. It's
for
why, like,
not just card deck builders, but, like, roguelites in general.
Yes. It is why those artifacts show up, those items that like modify how the game plays. It's why you can do upgrades on cards or whatever roguelite you have.
It's often why these games will have 3 classes, one of which is a fighty, one of which is a speedy, and one of which is a magic-y.
Yep. And I feel like for that one we can also blame Gary Gygax.
Yeah.
That's probably
but
his
there's
fault.
no cleric.
That's true. They stopped at 3. So this game, Slay the Spire 2, it has all of those same basic fundamentals. You're getting 3 energy to start. You're picking a class at the beginning of a run. That class has a default deck. You then are getting more cards as you beat enemies to refine your deck. You are upgrading cards, trying to remove cards that you do not need from your deck. And you're trying to make a lean machine, basically. Each of these different characters has a few themes that they can really do and go down. And you're kind of trying to find a lane, and you're drafting a deck.
trying to build towards one of the, and I'd say they're fairly broad, but they're distinct lanes. So, for example, the Iron Blood,
The Ironclad,
the
default
Ironclad,
man.
the Ironclad plays basically like he does in Slay the Spire 1, where he has a lot of cards that permanently exhaust other cards. He has cards that cost him life. He has the big hitty cards where he hit thing hard. But they've added a couple other lanes with him. So I think the biggest one I've noticed thus far is with the Ironclad, you can build towards capitalizing on making enemies vulnerable. And so he has several new cards that like that. I would say in general, the 3 base characters from the original game, mostly you can pick them up and pick the same cards and they will work about the same way.
Yeah, that is kind of my biggest takeaway so far of this game is this feels as much like a Slay the Spire 1 expansion as it does feel like a new game. I mean, It feels more like that than a new game, frankly.
They have not reinvented the wheel. The fundamentals are there. There's more stuff and more different stuff.
But not even that much, right?
But not that much yet.
We've already reviewed in previous shows Monster Train 2.
Yeah.
And Monster Train 2 starts you out with a bunch of new factions, each with new mechanics, and then they've added new cards and new effects to the old clans from the first game. Like, there are more things going on enemies-wise. Like, there's stuff you needed to relearn. The fundamentals of the gameplay were the same, but they added enough new mechanics that it really changed how the old clans had to play. It also had new clans that cared about completely different things. Like, there weren't equipments in the original games.
They put out DLC for that.
Yes. Whereas Slay the Spire...
It's good, by the way. The DLC, the 2 new clan... Well, one of them, you get the Wormkin back for free.
Okay.
And they made the Wormkin good. They were the expansion clan in the first Monster Train. And I always felt like they were the most fiddly. Yes. In terms of, like, you have to, use infused cards to power up in the slots on the floor, and then your cards would be more effective based on how many infusion slots. And they're a lot easier to handle in Monster Train 2. And then the other new clan is, I think they're called the Railbound. And they're basically, their whole gimmick is you can forge stuff. There's a forging mechanic where you get a forge number that adds on to any artifact or any monster you summon. So you can either build it up and cash it in, or try and buff up every unit and artifact you use. It's very interesting. It's a very cool thing. Anyway, Slay the Spire.
Yeah, so like all those things you just said, right? About like, oh, there's a new faction and they did a major rebalance of this old faction, and oh, there's this new faction that has an entirely different mechanic on how it plays. Slay the Spire, 3 out of the 5 characters in this game are the characters from the previous game.
And they don't even have the adept back.
They don't even have the monk.
I didn't like the adept, so it's fine.
I didn't love it, but also not here.
Not here.
And each of the main 3 from the original game have the same cards. I maybe some of the cards have been banned or like removed.
They have definitely had cards like switched around and tweaked and added.
Yes, but let me tell you, if you built a let's say, for example, a Shank build of the Silent before, where you were playing a bunch of 0-cost Shanks to play a bunch of cards all in one turn, that build is still just as viable as it was before.
If you want to go oops all orbs with the defect and just constantly channel lightning, you can do that still.
I built the Defects Claw build.
That's right. I love the Defects Claw build. It's all 0-cost cards all the time.
Yep, it's really good, and it's just as good this time. And Notice that I say just as good, not necessarily even better, because that was already one of the best ways to build the defect. And if you don't include a single new card in your deck, it's probably just as good, with all the exact same cards playing the exact same roles.
Yeah.
And that is this feels so much like an expansion.
Yeah.
Like, have you played any collectible card games?
Yes.
You know how, like, in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or any of those, like, there'll be a deck that has 90% of its cards basically set in stone, and then a new set will come out, and there'll be, like, one card for your new deck, and you're like, oh, man, this completely changes things, but it doesn't. It just makes the thing you were doing slightly better, like, marginally so. That's what this feels like. It's like they added one or two new cards for each of the existing builds for these characters.
I mean, they've added more than one or two. The problem is you have to unlock those cards. And like the previous game, you unlock those cards just by doing runs.
But for, like, the existing builds, they added, like, a handful of cards to boost up the existing builds. And they've added some more cards to add a little bit more texture to
There are
those.
definitely more colorless cards, too.
Yes. There's more
but those
colorless
are
cards.
always +1s, basically.
Yeah, they're not. You can't necessarily rely on the colorless cards. They've added more of them. They've even added new mechanics to each of these existing characters, or refined the mechanics a little bit more. Like, I think the draw discard build with the silent is more robust than it used to be.
Yes.
I think that the defect, like the claw build, it did get better. Like, they put more zero cost cards into the defect, so
and it is easier to shuffle around zero cost cards. And the zero cost block card is actually worth using.
Yes, it is,
as opposed to being garbage.
Yeah, and they added like a wound build, kind of status effect build to the defect that was not as strong before. The Ironclad used to do that a lot.
Yeah, and now the defect does it more.
Yeah, so, like, there are rebalances, but Braden, would you agree that, like, there's not that much of a... if you knew how to play it, you'd play it.
Yes. My hope is that this is a baseline, and that they will play around a little more, or do a bit more. I will say the two new characters, the Regent and the Necrobinder, do feel distinct enough from the base characters.
I agree.
So the Regent's whole deal is he is a star monarch, and he has cards that use a separate resource that he can cash in. He has just a big fucking sword.
Yeah.
Called the Astral Blade. And you can do a bunch of cards that will just buff that or put it back in your hand. And it's basically you are building up a giant damage chunker.
Yep, that is the thing you can do.
That's a fun way of playing the Regent.
Regent also has a lot of get energy now and next turn, or make plays in advance, so, like, you can get more energy or more effects kind of stacking over multiple turns, kind of like the Silent has a little bit. So I've definitely had builds with the Regent where I just had a ton of energy and then could just draw a bunch of cards. Like, the Regent, when you spiral out with the Regent, like, there's just some good energy efficiency powers that it has. He's got one of the strongest draw effects, like draw 9 cards is one of them. Like, there's a lot of just straight up powerful effects.
Deal 7 damage 7 times.
Yes. All sorts of stuff like that, where if you can just make your resources go nutty, the Regent can capitalize in ways that some of the other builds can't, because they just literally, maybe they can't draw enough cards, or they don't have enough things to spend the energy on. The Regent kind of gets everything. Machine. Yeah. And I think the Regent, to your point earlier, like, it's an alternate resource character, right? Yes. It's got this secondary energy source that is built up and stays across turns. And you can choose when to spend it. And there's some cards that only cost this alternate resource. There are cards that add to that alternate resource. If you've played Magic the Gathering, he's the energy character from Kaladesh, if you played during Magic about 10 years ago or so. Like, he's that. There's just this alternate resource that he has access to that no one else does. Enjoy the region.
Yes. The Necrobinder. Tell me about the Necrobinder, Gino.
So the Necrobinder is your standard zombify character, your
Pet class.
necromancer pet class sort of deal. You've got a little hand that it starts with 1 HP. Any unblocked damage that would come to you goes to it instead. And that hand, there's a bunch of cards that can make the hand attack for you. There's ones that increase the hand's HP. And then there's other cards that do damage equal to how much HP it has. So
the hand does not care about your buffs and debuffs.
No, and it deals damage separately from you. So it doesn't care about your buffs and debuffs. If there's effects on your enemy that prevent your damage,
thorns.
Like thorns. Yep, it ignores thorns, or it doesn't care. It doesn't hurt you when it attacks for thorns. It can die and it will reanimate every turn. So if it dies, it triggers. Dies triggers. So if you had something that cared about anything dying, it cares about your pet dying too, which is kind of fun. Other things that you get with this build, with this character, is souls are another theme. There's cards that let you capture souls, which are these single-use cards that draw you more cards. So they give you a lot of gas to your deck, so you can just see your entire deck pretty easily if you're doing a soul build. I know I'm forgetting.
You can also build around high-cost cards.
Yeah, that's the other thing you can do with the Necrobinder. And there's also a Doom mechanic.
Yes, that's right. You can stack Doom, where once the Doom goes over their current HP, they immediately die.
Well, they die after they take a turn.
Rather.
Yes.
So
it is like poison, but worse.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Because poison just ticks down the damage and it procs first.
But
whereas Doom
does not decrease, whereas poison decreases.
That is true. Yeah, so it's kind of like a secondary life bar for your enemy, kind of. Necrobinder is interesting. What did you like the Necrobinder?
I liked the Necrobinder. The most success I had was just going all in on the hand.
Yeah, when you love the hand loves you back in this game.
Because you can stack cards that make the hand attack multiple times. There's cards that make the hand attack based on the number of times it's already attacked that turn.
There's ones that become free if the hand is attacked already this turn. And yeah, that was my most successful build with Necrobinder.
That feels like the most built out and viable of the paths right now.
Yeah. I think at least so far on low level runs, right? I think we've only done Ascension level 0 for each character. I think it's pretty each of them has multiple viable builds. This game has new designs for enemies.
I would say, the types of enemies you are encountering have to be handled differently than the first game. And also, I would say the question mark events and relics you get at the end of boss battles are the other two things that I noticed as fairly significantly changing how Slay the Spire 2 works. So, in the first game, when you beat a boss and got a relic, you were usually going to pick the one that gives you an extra energy per turn. Depending on your build, there definitely, there would be ones that would be better choices.
For sure. There'd be gives you another energy but has a drawback of some kind.
Yes.
Or there would be draw you extra cards. There would be some that were, remove a bunch of cards from your deck. But 9 times out of 10, you wanted the thing that gave you extra energy, so you could play more cards.
And now, when you start an act, you get basically the equivalent of that relic from various different characters who have a much wider and more interesting slate of offerings. So there was one where when I was doing the claw build with the defect, there is one perk where it's all of your strikes cost 0 but can't be removed.
Yep.
And it's oh, well, this synergizes.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's like
Ones
so there's
that will give you a super powerful card.
yep.
Uh,
There's a bunch of different ancients. That's how they have it doled out.
Yeah.
There's Orobos, Pale, Tetskatara, Arv, Nonu Pepe, Tanks, and Vaku.
yeah.
I would say so. Tetskatara gives you some good like volatile effects. Like you get a bunch of energy on your first turn, but only your first turn. There's some that like it gives you temporary relics that like wear down over time,
and they wear down in the order you pick them. So, or in the opposite order that you pick them. So there's some weird stuff you can do with that, where you can try and avoid fights to keep those buffs longer.
Yep.
It's cool.
It is. Vaku is very chaotic.
Yes.
Like almost everything he gives you is a massive trade-off.
Is that the imp guy?
Yeah, that's the imp guy.
Okay. My favorite from him is the one where it's like you get an extra energy per turn, but he plays your first turn for you.
Yeah. I haven't played
weirdly enough has yet to backfire for me.
Okay, the one that I've seen but have never picked from him is whenever you go to a shop, you get everything the shopkeeper has.
You know, there are things you can do with that too. Money seems a little bit tighter than the first game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of these numbers could change. All of this tweaking could change. But in general, I've mostly just been throwing money at card removal. That's what has been instilled in me, what has been broken into me over hours and hours of playing these sorts of games is just get rid of your crappy starting cards as fast as possible.
Lean up. Keep it lean, keep it trim.
Or if you're going to make a bloated deck, get a lot of draw.
Yes, you either want a deck full of air, and when I say air, I mean cards that just draw cards and replace themselves, or you want a lean deck that doesn't need that card manipulation.
If you are doing an exhaust-based deck, you want a bigger deck, so you aren't running out of cards.
Yes. And I think that like the Ancients making it so that you don't know what kind of cards you're going to get, and the fact that the things that they offer are less straightforward than what the original game did, like that is significant. Like,
yes.
Your runs are pretty different depending on which of those Ancients you run into. It changes your build a lot. The other ones just, in the previous game, it was pretty much do what you did before, but harder after you beat a boss. Here, you can really be forced to change your game up pretty severely, depending on which of the Ancients you encounter and what they offer you. The bosses, is it unfair to say that there's a lot of reused designs on enemies? I mean, they're not literally reused.
I mean, they're similar concepts.
They're similar gimmicks. For sure.
There are also more bosses. I feel like there were only like 2 or 3 boss types per level in the first game. So there's already more variety there. I think I have not felt like the tier 3 bosses have been especially terrifying. There's the one that's the gatekeeper, where you basically have to open the gate by doing damage, and then you can actually attack his hit points.
I like that one.
Yeah. That one was probably the hardest.
Hardest for me is in Act 1, there's a waterfall elemental.
Yes.
That has a ton of HP, and then it explodes at the end. And the longer it takes you to beat it, the more damage it does when it explodes. But it's also one of the only bosses that heals itself. And it also has a higher starting life total than most of the other bosses. And it also hits just as hard as most of the other bosses.
Yeah. Early access. I also think the big ol' crab is hard, because the crab reuses the facing mechanic from when you fight the tentacles in the first game.
Yes. Yeah, the crab is interesting. I like that it reuses that mechanic of like you take less damage from the side that you're facing, and it very clearly has a pattern. Like you want to face
Yeah.
this way, then face this way, then face this way. So it kind of forces you to change your character. Like you're not just focusing down one of the claws usually.
No, you have to switch back and forth.
Yeah, so it's a nice tension, right? You'd want to focus down one of them because focusing it down would reduce the overall number of attacks coming your way. But if you try to do that, it's entirely possible that the claw you're not focusing on will just kill you. So it's a nice tension. I like it. So you're kind of picking, oh, am I trying to damage race one claw down, or am I trying to whittle them down evenly so that I don't take major damage from blow to blow. Right now, there's no true ending, right?
No, I don't. No, you can't fight the architect.
So you get to the end. In the original game, there was a false ending after you beat the third boss, and then you
once you got all three pieces in an ascension run, you could fight the heart. Or in Downfall, you fight the whale.
Yeah, and now in this version, that doesn't exist yet. Early access. So given that this is an early access, like it seems like there are some enemy builds that are very similar and reminiscent of previous ones. Like there's another boss that doesn't attack you for 2 turns, and the more cards you play, the more damage it. Like your earlier attacks deal less damage than your next ones. You kind of debuff it as you attack.
That is, and they're clearly referencing the boss from the first game with that one.
Like that exists. There's a boss that in the first game it was asleep, and then after you woke it up, it took it just came at you real hard and fast. There's a boss that's just that. I mean, it's a reference to that boss. There's a few referential enemies. There's referential. I mean, some of the artifacts. Many of the artifacts are just from the original game and behave the exact same way.
It definitely seems like there are more character-specific artifacts and potions this time around.
Yes, for sure.
But it does feel a bit like an expansion. And if you somehow have not bought this but want to play more Slay the Spire but more, and don't want to pay the $25 this game costs, just goof around with Downfall for a bit. Yeah, Downfall basically has like 8 new characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say if you were going to play a Slay the Spire, this is the better one now.
Yes.
This is the one you should
play. I think at base, this is a better experience than Slay the Spire, the original.
I would agree. That is definitely what I would recommend if you were going to play one. However, if you played the first one for 100 hours like I have, you're gonna immediately find it very familiar and comfortable, and you kind of have to be coaxed into trying new things because the things you know how to do will just work. They will work as well as they did before. I haven't really been punished for just running back builds that I know how to do from the original game. They totally work. And the characters that I liked from the original game, I still like in this one. The ones that I didn't like in the original game, like I was not a fan of the Defect, generally speaking. Still not a fan of the Defect.
Oh, I like the Defect.
I was a fan of the Silent. Silent was my favorite.
Yeah.
And Silent still works the same.
Yeah. Card draw, poison, 1,000 cuts.
Card draw, poison, draw, discard.
Yeah.
Shanks is a combo deck. Just a combo deck right there. Though the build of the Defect I like the most is the one that plays with the Silent. It's the claw build. But yeah, like, what are you looking forward to?
I want them to. Part of it is I think they just should add more, which they are planning on doing. But I also wouldn't mind them genuinely trying to switch things up, and I don't know if that's with new characters or with maybe alternate rule sets. Because it really does feel like if you played the first game, pretty much all of your fundamentals will carry over 1-to-1.
Yeah, I think,
and I wouldn't mind some tripping up in that way, because Monster Train 2 absolutely will ask you to kind of think through fundamentals a bit more.
Yeah, I think they're kind of in a weird spot, because Slay the Spire, they didn't add a new category of card or item, right? Like, it's not like they added equipment or something, right? Like, oh, you can get different weapons, and they modify your
room
cards.
Like Monster Train did.
They didn't make some new category of thing. They've basically stuck to its artifacts, its cards, and that's it, really. And like your basic stats, your health and energy. But those are the two ways, and potions. Sorry, there's also potions.
Yeah.
Those three ways of interacting with your character and with the game. They didn't add another category of thing, so they can make a new character, but this game has a pretty narrow band of gameplay experience compared to the games that have come out since Slay the Spire came out, right? Like, some of the games we've ranked on this show, like Cobalt Core, right? It's got an entire like ship movement mechanic going on with it, because it's about
and you are mixing and matching two different decks.
You're mixing and matching two different decks. Something like, say, for example, Chaos Zero Nightmare. You've got 3 characters, each of whom have their own decks that you can modify, and it's about, making synergy between them. Monster Train has the whole, like, character cards and characters that you place on the train, and there's layers that you need to care about. What floor are characters on? Slay the Spire is one of the more basic builds of this sort of.
It has stayed the same for better and worse.
Yeah, and so I don't know how different your new characters can even really be, right? Like, the Regent has an additional resource. The Necrobinder has this pet character, but ultimately, like, you're attacking for damage. You might have another resource you care about.
You are trying to take the least amount of damage and do the most amount of damage
as best you can from turn to turn.
I'm fine with them not bringing back the Adept, because I'm a hater.
Yeah, the Adept had you had to basically switch stances.
Stance switch between calm and rage.
Like, it's a damn fighting game, like you're Gen or something. But yeah, like that. Even those sorts of characters, right? Like, ultimately, you're still trying to just maximize damage output. There aren't that many other considerations. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a debuff character, like a more elaborate debuff character, than what we've currently got. Like, that seems like an avenue that plays within the current mechanics that they haven't really explored that much. Like, maybe one that's trying to stack a lot of different types of debuffs on the enemies. That could be something. You already have a bunch of free builds. I guess you could do more characters that generate cards live in battle. The Regent does that a little.
Yeah, the Regent can generate colorless cards, which is, given that colorless cards are on average powerful, it's pretty good, even if the cards themselves are random.
Yeah, like maybe you lean even harder into that with a different character. I mean, you could do more block first sort of thing. Like, Ironclad has the ability to do damage based on how much block he has. Yeah, maybe you could do an entire character that's more defense oriented. Like, there's things to be done, but it's not like that much. I don't think there's actually that much design space.
There's no fundamentals that you can change, because the fundamentals are identical.
Yeah,
but maybe that's enough.
I think it is. I think it's definitely enough. Like, I'm going to play more of this. In other games, I can see that there's a lot of unexplored space, right? For how you could design cards, how you could design mechanics. This game, I think, is pretty well established, and you can get variance within the experience, but it's like, the way that I used to think about it is like Magic the Gathering.
But there is co-op.
There is, and I was about to get to that. I was about to turn to co-op. But like, Magic the Gathering has a bunch of different ways you can win a game. It has a bunch of, like, you can eventually go infinite, right? And then I've played other card games where that's just not a thing. Like, going infinite is not possible. And just the space of card designs that the game's mechanics allow are just a little bit narrower, and you tend to get more consistency in the experience. And this is a game, like if Monster Train 2 is about building a deck that kind of goes infinite and goes nutty, this is a game about meat and potatoes.
Yeah,
like,
we've said before, it's about the honest grind.
yes. Like you can do some stuff that's kind of nutty, but even the kind of nutty stuff usually doesn't go as nutty as like a Monster Train. You're between the lines here for the most part. Except for, let's talk about co-op. There is co-op in this game, up to 4 players.
Yes. You and M played some of it.
We did. So the way that it works is you each get to pick a character at the beginning of the run. And then you are on the map, just like normal Slay the Spire style, except all of the events that occur, you can each pick different options from the event. So like when you get to pick your starting item from Niao, you can each pick different things, and you will be offered different things too. So you'll get a different set of things from Niao. Then you see the map, and what you're doing is essentially voting on where to go.
Yeah.
On the map. If you both pick different options, it'll be and it's 2 people. Computer breaks the tie. But if there's 3 and 2 pick one picks the other, you go the direction of the 2.
Yeah.
There's a drawing on the map tool that you can use for kind of like articulating where you want to go and what you want to do. And then once you get to battles, the effects that you play can stack on each other in some ways, but not that many. So like you can't buff your teammate. Like if you had something that like made your next attack deal extra damage, that still impacts you.
But
you can't target
vulnerability still impacts how your teammate does damage, right?
Correct. Debuffs apply for both. So if you
Okay.
weaken the enemy, weaken applies on both of you. If you make the enemy vulnerable, it applies to both of your attacks, which means communication's important. Because you want to apply the vulnerability before your teammate empties their hand, right? Like, you can play out of sequence. Like, one of you can dump your whole hand, and then the other one can dump their whole hand. Or you can go, I go, you go, I go, you go. There's no rule on how that works. It's not forcing you to play in a sequence. And you currently cannot see your team member's hand.
Yeah.
They can tell you what they have if you're on voice chat or something.
I'll say this. It feels like it needs less coordination than Hellcard.
Yes.
From what I saw, which is probably a good thing because when you and I played Hellcard, it just felt like if you didn't coordinate, you were dead.
I think that if you don't coordinate in this version, you are also dead. But you are able to get further sloppily because there just aren't that many ways to coordinate, right? Like the only times when coordination is really important is if you're going to make an enemy vulnerable, or if you have some sort of ability to heal, your teammate, like that might matter. And there are some cards that actually do, when you're in multiplayer, get unlocked, and they are multiplayer specific. So like I saw one with the silent that was like boost your teammate's next attack damage or something.
Okay. So maybe they'll add more to that.
Yes, and I will say like this game instantly better than Hellcard at what it's doing. Like Hellcard's lane was being the one that has multiplayer, and this one's just better. Like this multiplayer for as rudimentary as it is currently, like I can't see my teammate's hand. It's still better. It's because this game is fundamentals are just better.
Sorry, Hellcard.
Sorry, Hellcard.
You had Moxie.
You did. You had a lane, and then Slay the Spire 2 came out and ate your lunch, and I'm sorry about that. It's tough. But yeah, I think that the multiplayer is fun. It's really incumbent on you to be on voice chat, though, probably. Like, all of the tools I talked about for communicating without voice chat are a lot worse if you don't also have voice chat.
Unsurprisingly, you need voice chat when playing a high difficulty cooperative game.
Yes. Have you played the board game version of Slay the Spire?
I have not.
Okay, I have. And one thing about the board game version of Slay the Spire is that it has the pandemic problem. And when I say that, I mean the board game pandemic. Where if one person knows what to do, the best thing for you to do if you want to win the game is let that person play everyone's hand.
Yeah.
And so Slay the Spire, the board game, can have that problem. Like if everyone's playing open-handed, there's definitely the same thing with like vulnerable and weaken also applies there. So it as someone who put 100+ hours into Slay the Spire, I felt like I was playing 4 people's hands, and that's not fun for anyone. To have someone telling them what to do, and also for me to be overwhelmed with 4 people worth of cards.
Yes.
I think removing the ability to see my teammate's hand is kind of nice for that reason.
It's probably the right thing to do.
Yes, I think that it makes backseat gaming way harder when you're playing in multiplayer, and that's probably for the best. I would rather a like we get 80% optimal play, but everyone feels like they have agency and are involved. And I think that is a good way that they are leaning currently in this game. We should play some multiplayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good. It's fun. And another thing to know about multiplayer is if you win in multiplayer, like only one person needs to survive the end of the boss to get a win in multiplayer. So like M had a really broken Necrobinder build, and she was able to carry us over the finish line. Like I had a silent build that wasn't quite good enough, and Necrobinder just got the last hit in after I had died, and we were able to win that way, which is another little subtlety about it. And with multiplayer, they scale the enemy damage and the enemy... Actually, I think it's mostly their HP. The damage might be scaled a little bit, but it's mostly about how much health the enemies have. They are scaled for multiple characters worth of nonsense going off. So it's interesting. It's functional for sure. I want to play more of it to see if there's more synergy, like multiplayer specific cards, because that's where I think the juice is of the multiplayer. And I will also say, Braden, like there are some of these characters that require more of a setup, or require more startup time, and multiplayer lets you buy them that time.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I think it'll be fun to see if that develops.
Sure. Like I think the defect, for example, can have really slow ramp up time because you have to get a bunch of powers online for the defect to start doing what it needs to do. And if you have an ironclad who just can tank or like weaken a lot of enemies for you, and the defect gets like 2 or 3 turns to set up instead of, if you're playing in single player, sometimes it's, oops, I got the boss that jumps me really fast and I've got the slow setup character. Darn, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And like for me, my silent build was really bursty, but didn't have a lot of longevity. And M's Necrobinder had a lot of long game, and so I was able to help out earlier on, and then she was able to carry in like the long drawn out boss fights. It's cool.
Yeah. That's cool. And unlike Hellcard, I feel like my biggest problem with Hellcard was that it felt like you needed a party comp.
Mm-hmm.
Because some characters just could not cover for certain kinds of encounters.
Yep. There were definitely times when it's like, oh no, we don't have an AoE character. Shit. Yeah. We're going to die because we ran into an AoE style fight. And we picked 2 like focus fire characters.
Yes.
I think that each of the characters in Slay the Spire is more varied and more versatile than those characters were in Hellcard. And that's a benefit. That means that any combinations of up to 4 of these, you're probably going to have a pretty decent chance, as long as you know what you're doing deck building wise to get to the final boss. Now, Braden, regale me with the most fun build you've had so far. Just like
I like the big sword. I like the big sword with the Regent. It's very much a build, a build up kind of build.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you can keep stacking damage on that sword and can keep putting it back in your hand, you could get it to do like chunk them for 60 damage.
Yeah, it
every
very
single
easily.
time you use it.
Yeah, and you can also get some powers that like make the sword hit all enemies, or
yes, Or every time you use the sword, you get block.
Why block? Don't bother.
Sometimes you're fighting a boss, but also yes.
Yeah, so that one's a fun one. That is definitely a fun build. My favorite build was with the silent, the draw discard build. I got one version of that build where I got just so many. They added a mechanic keyword for when you discard this, you play it for free. It's called Sly. I got a bunch of the Sly cards that when you discard, they draw you 2 cards. And I had upgraded them so they were draw 3. And then I had a bunch of draw discard effects. And then I also had the Shank card that when you play it, you discard your whole hand, and you replace them with Shanks. So I would discard my whole hand, then trigger every Sly effect in my hand, some of which drew me more cards. So normally the downside of that, I think it's Storm of Steel, is that my hand is only Shanks now, right? There's no other effects I can play. But if you discarded something that also draws you more, you get to continue playing your turn, and you just converted your whole hand into damage. It was savage. And they also added some cards for the silent that add poison to enemies whenever you draw a card after the beginning of your turn, and then another power that every time you draw a card after the beginning of your turn, you deal 2 or 3 damage, depending on if it's upgraded or not, to every enemy. So yeah, just churning through my deck killed everything. It was pretty awesome.
It's still got the juice. It
sure does.
It is still so fundamentally good that the part where they haven't changed much doesn't affect me as much as it would.
Yeah, like it says something that we are talking about the nuances here of a game that is a very, very, very close sequel to a game that both of us have probably put 100 hours into, and we still think it's quite good. So let's do kind of a preliminary ranking for Slay the Spire 2. Deck ability, I mean, it's the gold standard, right? So
it's
5.
Slay the Spire, it's 5.
It's 5. You're gonna play this a bunch. Rogue ability, also 5.
Yeah,
like it's got the best in class event design. It's got the best in class events, enemies, character designs. Like, I bet they put so much fucking time into deciding whether something does 4 damage or 5 in this game. Like, everything feels right on the money with the card designs. And then heart. We think this has the heart of the cards, the lungs of the cards, the bones of the cards. The lungs, right?
I'd say presentationally it does look a lot better.
It does. The animations definitely popped. I was like, wait a second, that thing's moving. What? When a character animated in this game. But yeah, I think lungs, right? It's very much like the first game.
They're animations now.
And this game was never the best looker.
Yeah, no, the first game was always like the joke was it looks like a Flash game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this looks much better in both subtle and obvious ways.
It looks much better, though, to be fair, right now there's placeholder art for a lot of things.
But it's funny placeholder art.
It is very funny. It's MS Paint, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think right now it's got the lungs of the cards. That was never what this game was about. You know, there's other games we've played where it was a presentation powerhouse. This was not. This was never that. And story-wise, like, there is a story here, which is more than I think the first game could say. Like, there's story panels, you can learn about these characters. But if you tried to compare it to something like Cobalt Core, like, that game is...
The writing is not the emphasis. I will say the scenarios in the question mark rooms are funnier and better.
Yes, they are. I agree.
You can... If you eat all the cheese, just eat all the cheese.
Did you ever get the sushi event?
Yeah.
Sushi event's great. You just keep paying and you keep eating sushi and it keeps giving you buffs.
Or you can keep removing cards by sacrificing max hit points until you only have 1 hit point left.
Yeah. This game's good. So, our preliminary evaluation, deck ability 5, rogue ability 5, and it has the lungs of the cards, a 4. Yeah. It's really good. You should probably check it out. You probably will check it out. Let's
even
be
for
honest.
$25, what is currently there is still worth playing.
For sure. And we'll probably check in on this game in a year when it comes out for real. But for now, enjoy it. Enjoy exploring a brand new Slay the Spire. Get your bug reports in so they fix things. Have you encountered any bugs?
Nothing super big. Like there have been some janky like order of operations things, but nothing like game breaking.
Yeah, I think the only thing I've had is sometimes when I boot it up, it's booting up on the wrong monitor.
Yeah.
Or it's forgetting which monitor I wanted it to boot up on, but that's not anything huge. All right. Well, thank you, Braden. Any other thoughts, closing thoughts on Slay the Spire 2?
Congratulations to the developers for launching a game and it being ridiculously huge. They deserve it.
They do. I mean, look, this podcast series wouldn't exist.
This subgenre basically wouldn't exist without them.
Correct. Yeah, imagine if like Capcom making Street Fighter, like it created an entire genre. What if that genre just kept flourishing instead of dying out after like a decade?
And coming back. Oh, listen. Fighting game discourse, that's a different podcast.
It very much is, but I just feel like, sometimes a game comes out and it just makes a genre. And sometimes that genre is like PUBG, where then Fortnite comes out and eats its whole lunch. And it turns out there can only be like one or two of those games that's actually successful at a time. Whereas I feel like this has become a flourishing genre.
Yes. We have enough games that we could do several more episodes of this show.
Easily.
And some of those games are even worth playing.
And most of them aren't pornography.
That's right. Even the pornography ones are putting out safe for work versions.
They're like, come on, man. Look,
hey, man, we feel pretty good about our deck builder. You don't even need the H scenes.
Look, our goal here is to make a pornography deck builder so good that you're going to keep playing to the end of the run, even if you're otherwise done.
That's right.
Well,
we're not going to review that one yet.
No, we're not going to review any of those, probably.
No, probably not.
But yeah, we can definitely keep doing more of these shows. Yep. And till next time we do the show, thank you, Braden.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear listener. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show. deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com is our email address. deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have comment sections there. That's where you can download the show. Also, deeplistenspodcast.bluesky.social. That's our social media. And you can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Till next time, peace.
Peace.